the last ice age, this part of the world. And at that time, Britain was still joined on to mainland Europe. It's about 1,000 years after that, so 9,000 years ago, with the end of that ice age and the subsequent rise in sea levels, Britain becomes separated from mainland Europe to this day. Now we know there were already people living on this island. We are in the Stonehenge, the Neolithic, 9,000 years ago. These people were Neanderthals, and these people lived a very primitive way of life. They were hunter-gatherers. So nomads would move from one part of the island to the next, following the herds of wild animals that they hunted and collecting fruits and berries to complete their diet. This hunter-gatherer or nomadic phase of the Stone Age lasted for about 4,000 years, which is actually a very long time as far as human history is concerned. And then about 5,000 years ago, everything changed. Everything changed probably due to the discovery of a primitive type of agriculture, probably based on wheat or other cereals, wheat, which is still grown in this part of the country today. And also at the same time, the discovery of the rearing and keeping of livestock, so animals, possibly pigs, maybe cattle, maybe some other type of animal that these people kept for food. And it's at that same time, and possibly, well, without a doubt, due to the discovery of agriculture and the keeping of livestock, that these Neanderthals, these communities, went from being nomadic to being sedentary, to living all year round in the first place, in the same place, sorry. And, we believe that actually the first sedentary communities to be formed on this island were formed here, on the Salisbury Plain. And at about that same time, 5,000 years ago, also the first phase in the construction of Stonehenge began. Yeah. So we know, or most historians and archaeologists would coincide with the main theory nowadays that Stonehenge was probably built over 3 different phases. Now, there are many more questions than there are answers to Stonehenge. It's a mystery, an enigma. Yeah, but what I will do is I will tell you what we do know, and then we'll talk about what we don't know, which is a lot more than what we do know, actually. What we do know is pretty much thanks to modern technologies. When I say modern technologies, going back about 50, 60 years in time, important discoveries such as carbon dating, then more recent discoveries such as DNA stranding, and also geology, the study of rocks. So, about 5,000 years ago, the first period in the construction of the monuments began. This would have been a very simple beginning, very simple phase. Would have been a mound, an artificially created round flattened area with a ditch or a trench going all the way around it. And on that mound there would have been 2 entrances, one to the northeast, which is aligned to the sunset of the summer solstice, and another to the southeast aligned to the sunrise of the winter solstice. That and a processionary route leading from the monument to the river Avon, which is about 6 miles or 10 kilometers away, would have been would have been completed first phase of that monument. The processionary route is still visible to date with an aerial photograph or an aerial view you can see that processionary route leading from the monument to the river Avon. Yep. Now, that phase would have lasted about 1,000 to 1,500 years, and then the second phase began. The second phase is a wooden phase. In the interior perimeter of that mound, some large holes were being dug, and in those large holes, some big wooden posts would have been inserted. Of that wooden phase, nothing remains. We don't know what those wooden posts were there for. We don't know what they represented. We don't know why they put them there. However, that phase would have lasted about 500 to 1,000 years, and then finally the third phase would have begun. The most interesting phase as far as we're concerned, because what is left of that third phase is what you're going to be able to see today. So obviously it was a stone phase. Now when you get to the monument today, you're going to be able to see two different types of stone. The first stone is the typical image terrible. Excellent. So the third phase of the construction of Stonehenge, the stone phase, is what you're going to be able to see today. So the first type of stone you're going to see is what we call a sarsen stone. It's a type of granite. It's a stones that are used or were used to build the trilithons. And what is a trilithon? The typical image you will have in your minds of two vertical stones crossed by a horizontal stone. This formation of three stones is called a trilithon. Now, each of those stones weigh between 40 and 50,000 kilos each. Oh, look up ahead, just on the right-hand side. You see that mound on the ground? Do you see it? Yeah, that is a burial place. Yeah, they are called earthworks. Some of them are mounds, some of them are long barrows, others are just barrows. The Druids and the Celts. Yeah, the Druids were the religious dominant political caste that ruled this area until the arrival of the Romans. From the time of the Neolithic, when Stonehenge was built, to the arrival of the Romans, those are burial places. Yeah, some of them individual, large ones like that, collective burial places. Perhaps entire generations of the same clan or tribe. More about that later on. So the trilithons weigh between 40 and 50,000 kilos each of those rocks. Now, here are some of the amazing facts. First of all, we are in the Stone Age. Metals have not been discovered, neither has the wheel. The only rudimentary tools that have been found in the area made of stone, bone, and deer antler, the horns of deers. Yeah. Now, those stones that weigh between 40 and 50 tons are not found in that shape, form, or size in nature. They had to be extracted from the quarry, cut down to size, and worked upon so that each horizontal stone fits on the vertical stones with a ball and socket, and and so that each horizontal stone also fits into the horizontal stones next to it with a tongue and groove. So they had to be worked on, they had to be cut down to size. Some of the horizontal ones were rounded, shaped, and then they had to be taken from the quarry where they were taken from, which is about 20 miles away, to the site of the monument, 20 miles, 30 kilometers, yeah, without wheels, yeah. So that's another mystery. How did they get those stones there? How did they drag, or how did they transport these huge stones for this distance? But also, perhaps even more intriguing is how did they get the horizontal stones on top of the vertical stones? Now today you see the vertical stones are a lot lower than they would have been when the monument was built, because they have been gradually sinking into the earth for over 2,500 years. So they would have been much taller, yeah? Also, you know, yeah, how did they get the stones there? How did they put one stones on top of the others? So that's part of the mystery right there. But then you've got a second type of stone at the monument, which is maybe even more fascinating. This second type of stone is known as a blue stone. They're smaller stones. They weigh between 1 and 1.5 meters and weigh between 4,000 to 5,000 kilos each. So lighter, yes, but these stones originate in the Preseli Mountains in Wales. That is over more than 200 miles or 300 kilometers away. So another mystery would be, how did they get those stones from Wales to here, to the Salisbury Plain? Again, we're not entirely sure. Kind of the most accepted hypothesis or theory is that they may have been floated on some sort of primitive barge down the River Severn to the Bristol Channel, and then up the River Avon to the site. Oh God, sorry, a car just decided to check out the side of the coach. Anyway, I get sidetracked. To the processionary route, and then dragged or somehow transported overland for those 6 miles or 10 kilometers, yeah? So again, you know, that is one of the most fascinating things. How would those stones have gotten there? But also, why would they bring these stones from so far away? Now, today when we get to the monument, as I mentioned earlier on, inside the monument, you're not going to be able to touch the stones. However, outside the monument, there are 2 stones that you can touch. They are just by the group entrance. The larger stone is a sarsen stone, it's granite, which the trilithons are made from. The smaller stone is the blue stone, yeah, the ones I've just talked about. So what I encourage you to do is touch both stones. See if you can notice a difference in temperature. The blue stones normally feel warmer to the touch, okay? So touch the stones and then let me know what you think. Look there on the right hand side, the tank. Shh, don't tell anybody they're looking for me, please. Don't say anything. Okay, we're driving through military territory, so if you see helicopters and tanks and things like that, be careful. You might end up without a guide today. You might end up with a driver on your own. It's not a problem really. It's not a problem really, but it will be a problem for me. In any case, of course, that's not true. Don't worry about it. What was I going to say? Yes, so going back to the monument, all of those things would be part of the mysteries around Stonehenge. But I guess, you know, probably the main question or the main mystery, you know, apart from how did they bring the stones, how did they cut the stones, how did they get the stones to the monument? Look here out of the left-hand side of the window. Look out of the left-hand side. You'll see 2 miniatures, replicas. The hut is the type of hut people used to live in. The mountain of white stones, that is what the barrows would look like in the times of the Celts and the Druids. They would keep them clean with only white stones on top. so they'd be seen from miles around. Yeah, nowadays they're overgrown. Yeah, with shrubs and well, wildlife basically. But that's what they would have looked like. And those huts, that round hut with a straw roof, that would have been, again, it's miniature. Yeah, the real ones would have been much bigger. That would have been the type of dwelling that these Neanderthals, these primitive people lived in. They didn't even have a hole for a chimney because it didn't need it. Yeah, there was enough air could get through the straw to take out the smoke from inside the hut. So, but I suppose, what is most intriguing of all is what was the monument? What was it used for? Why did they build it, right? Okay, well, I'm afraid we're not entirely sure. Yeah. So throughout history, there have been...
This is my favourite theory. Not because it's the one I believe, but it's because it's the one I believe to be the craziest of them all. Yep. But there are many books, films, documentaries, radio programs, television programs, and all sorts of people that are much cleverer than myself who support that theory. So, number one. Then I'll tell you a legend. The legend of Merlin the magician bringing the stones from Ireland, and that this was the court of King Arthur. As you know, Merlin and Arthur were legends. Yeah, they don't actually really form part of the history of this country. Yep. And then of course the next, probably one of the most heard of ones, and I'm sure you've heard this one as well, is that Stonehenge was a place of human sacrifices. Have you heard that one? Okay then, well, I'm not entirely sure about that one either. However, I will tell you something curious that happens here. Every now and then they ask us to leave a tourist behind. Now, we don't know what happens to that tourist. I'd rather not ask any questions. But also, every now and then we have volunteers to stay behind. How do you volunteer to stay behind at Stonehenge? It's very easy. All you have to do is be late. If you're late, then I will understand that you are volunteering for the sacrifice, and then I will leave you here to your will. If it's your will to be sacrificed to appease the gods of the traffic, then so be it. Okay? So, if there are any volunteers today, you can let me know in advance. Don't even have to wait for you in that case. But if not, that is what will happen to you. Now, where does this theory of human sacrifices come from? First of all, nowadays, we don't really believe that. Yeah, we don't believe it is a place of human sacrifices. Why? Because if it had been a place of human sacrifices, you would have expected to have found many what? Bones, corpses, skeletons. Yes, indeed, bodies, right? And as a matter of fact, only one skeleton has been found inside Stonehenge. And that is the skeleton that was named by the archaeologists as the Archer. It was named the Archer because inside the skeleton there were 3 stone arrowheads, yeah, which kind of indicates that that person must have come to a violent death. However, it could have been a warrior buried in honours. It could have been a warrior that was wounded at war and came to die here. It could have been somebody who was murdered and buried here so they wouldn't be found. It could have been any number of theories. As a matter of fact, in another 2 sites, there are 5 important monolithic sites in this area. Stonehenge being the most impressive, the most impressive, the most well-known one. But there are others, and as a matter of fact, the World Heritage status that the site has is, on the one hand, because of the stone monument you're going to see now, but also the 4 other important monolithic sites, and the more than 90 earthworks, burial places in the whole area. It's all of that that has a World Heritage site. So there's a concentration of Neolithic and monolithic monuments and archaeology in the whole area, right? So, in another 2 sites, there are archers too. In one of them, only 1 archer. In another one, a family of 5 archers. Yeah, 2 adults and 3 infants. However, we kind of tend to believe that they were buried there in honours more than having been sacrificed, that they were important enough, whoever they may have been, to have been buried within the stone circles. If you look straight ahead slightly to the right, you'll be able to get your first glimpse of the monument. Now let me tell you how this works. We're going to get off the coach. We're going to walk together to the group entrance. I need to keep the whole group together. Please do not wander off to do your own thing, take your own pictures, run around. Until I have the whole group at the entrance, they won't give me the tickets, right? So I need to keep everybody together. I will get the tickets. The tickets are your maps, okay? Now, how many Spanish speakers do we have? Okay, how many, ¿cuántos tienen mapas en español? One. ¿Cuántos son en total por grupo? 7 y...
Let's say it's 1:45. We leave at 2:30, okay? Please do not be late unless you want to stay for a sacrifice. Le voy a dar las instrucciones en español. Vamos a...
Čo sú tu. Tak to je, čo sú tam tí pochovaní, tí druidi? Na to sú.
建造物なの？はっきりと建造物って言ってんだけど。
Eso es más simpático.
正解はどっち？
Bye bye, Stonehenge. Look at what